When you picture the ruins of the Roman Empire, there's a pretty good chance this is the image that pops into your head, the incredible facade of the Library of Celsus in Ephesus. But behind this famous face is a really fascinating story. It's a story of family, ambition, architectural genius, and even the changing meaning of knowledge itself. So what's the real story behind this legendary building? Its fame is just undeniable. But this building was so much more than just a place to keep books. It was a statement. It was a sanctuary, and it was a stage. So let's uncover the life story of this incredible structure.
You know, every great monument really begins with a human story. And for the Library of Celsus, that story is all about a son's profound desire to honor his father, not just for a lifetime, but for all time.
Okay, so the library was commissioned around 110 CE by a man named Tiberius Julius Aquila, and his goal? To create a memorial for his father, Tiberius Julius Celsus Polemaeanus, that would last forever. This was a man who had reached the absolute peak of Roman society. But who exactly was this guy who inspired such an amazing tribute?
Celsus was a true phenomenon. In an empire where Roman heritage was everything, he was one of the very first men of Greek origin to just smash through that political glass ceiling. He became a Roman consul and later the proconsul of Asia. His career was so incredible that he was granted this rare and huge privilege of being buried inside the city walls of Ephesus, an honor that was usually reserved only for founders and heroes.
In that burial honor, that right there is the absolute key to understanding this entire building. This wasn't just a library that happened to have a tomb in it. No. From its very conception, it was designed as something way more complex, a fusion of public knowledge and private veneration.
The Library of Celsus is what's known as a hieron, which is basically a hero shrine. It was designed to work as both a center for learning and as a sacred monument to Celsus, elevating him from just a successful politician to a revered, heroic figure for generations to come.
And right here, you can see the very heart of that purpose. This is the actual marble sarcophagus of Celsus, still resting in its crypt. It sits directly below the center of the main hall, making the man himself the literal and symbolic foundation upon which all the knowledge of the library was built.
So, with Celsus as the foundation, his son Aquila needed an exterior that was worthy of that legacy. The architect's solution was just a breathtaking work of theatrical design, full of clever tricks meant to inspire awe in absolutely everyone who saw it.
The architect here employed a masterful use of false perspective. The columns in the center are just slightly taller and wider than the ones on the edges, and the spaces between them get a little bigger as you move towards the middle. It's this subtle optical illusion that makes the entire facade feel much wider and grander than it really is. Meanwhile, that elegant two-story exterior, it cleverly masks a much taller three-story interior reading hall.
And adorning the front in these niches were 4 statues, each one a personification of a virtue that was attributed to Celsus. You had Sophia for wisdom, Episteme for knowledge, Ennoia for intelligence, and Arete for excellence. They served as this constant, public reminder of the ideals the man and the building stood for.
So we have this magnificent tomb and architectural wonder. But what about its function as a library? Well, this is where our modern ideas can be a little misleading. The Roman concept of a public library was something very different from what we think of today.
The library could hold an estimated 12,000 scrolls. Now that was an immense collection, making it the 3rd largest library in the entire Greco-Roman world, right behind the legendary institutions of Alexandria and Pergamum.
So with all that knowledge locked inside, who actually had access? The answer, it turns out, reveals a whole lot about Roman society and the role of knowledge as a symbol of power and status.
Looking at the interior here, you can see the rows of niches that once held these wooden cabinets or armaria for the precious scrolls. And pretty ingeniously, the architect built double walls behind them, creating an air gap to protect the fragile papyrus from the region's humidity. Very clever stuff.
But access to those scrolls was highly exclusive. They were stored way up high, so they were only reachable by paid attendants. There was no browsing and definitely no borrowing. This was a resource for a small elite circle of scholars and officials. The Library of Celsus, in reality, functioned less like a community library and more like a museum for books, a prestigious venue for readings, and a powerful symbol of Roman cultural supremacy.
For about 150 years, the library stood as this jewel of Ephesus, but
Just like the empire that built it, its golden age was destined to end. And it wasn't in a single dramatic moment, but through a long, slow process of fire, decay, and just being forgotten.
In 262 CE, a catastrophe struck. A massive fire, maybe sparked by an earthquake or a Gothic raid, just consumed the building's interior. And in those flames, the entire collection, all 12,000 scrolls, was lost forever. The beautiful facade, miraculously, survived, but the library's soul was gone. Centuries later, its ruins were repurposed into a public fountain, until a final, devastating earthquake brought the facade crashing down, burying the memory of Celsus under tons of marble.
For nearly 1,000 years, the library just lay buried and forgotten, its story seemingly over. But one of the most ambitious archaeological projects of the 20th century would give this Roman legend a second life.
From 1970 to 1978, a team of Austrian archaeologists took on the monumental task of putting the puzzle back together. Using a technique called anasymolysis, they meticulously cataloged and reassembled thousands of original fragments of the facade, literally raising the building's face from the dust.
And what they achieved was nothing short of miraculous. The resurrected facade isn't a modern copy. It's the real thing, brought back from the edge of oblivion. Today, it stands as the defining symbol of Ephesus, a testament to Roman ambition and to our own modern capacity for preservation. The story of Celsus's library is a really powerful reminder that what we build is a message to the future about what we value. Celsus and his son valued knowledge, honor, and eternal remembrance. It makes you wonder, right? What are the monuments, physical or otherwise, that our own time will leave behind?